Avast, ye mortals. Today we're here at Magic Kingdom to do something new. We're gonna make our way over to the Beak and Barrel, the newest pirate-themed lounge here at Magic Kingdom. This place opened up not too long ago, and so it's been a little bit difficult to get a reservation, but we managed to squeak one out this morning at 10:45 a.m. So grab your peg leg, slap on an eye patch, maybe put a parrot on your shoulder for good measure. Let's go get some drinks and some food. We're trying to be responsible. All right, let's go. The Beak and Barrel is located in Adventureland, nestled between the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction and its gift shop. Honestly, it can be a little bit tough to figure out exactly where it is if you don't already know, so just keep an eye out for this sign. So I've checked in for my reservation, and I'm sitting here kind of across the way from the Beak and Barrel right now. I have to say, before we even go in, that I don't really have any expectations. I haven't looked at any reviews or anything like that. I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I will say that because of the seating situation here at the Beak and Barrel, I am expecting that as a party of one, I'm probably going to be standing. That's not something I'm particularly excited about, but it is part of the situation here at the Beak and Barrel. Also, they do warn you when you check in for your reservation that there's a variety of seating styles here, and that if you have a larger party, you're going to be separated. So that's definitely something you want to be aware of before you book this spot. In my mind, it's going to be very similar to Oga's Cantina, where you might be sharing a table with other parties, and that can kind of be uncomfortable for some people sometimes. So again, just be aware of that going in.
Drink up, me hearty yo-ho.
All right, so we just wrapped up at the Beak and Barrel, and I got to be honest with you about something. I don't really know how to proceed with this one. There are so many things that I feel like you need to know about before booking a reservation here. And then, of course, we have to talk about the experience itself, right? So this is kind of in two parts. And as you may have noticed, I'm not talking to you while eating. There's a reason for that too, mainly because I was placed at the bar and there just wasn't enough room for me to do that. Honestly, there was barely enough room for me to enjoy what I ordered, but we'll get more into that here in a second. First things first, I want to get into these nuts and bolts, and we're starting at the beginning with the check-in process and how it's a little bit different from some of the other dining experiences that I've had in the recent past. So generally speaking, when you have a dining reservation here at Walt Disney World, you made that reservation through the app or online. Once you get here, you can open up the My Disney Experience app and check in for that reservation about 10 minutes ahead of time. Anyway, when you go through that process, you're gonna let the place that you're dining at know about your party dynamic. You're gonna let them know if you need accommodations for a wheelchair or whatnot, and then you're gonna put in a phone number, and they're gonna use that phone number to text you when your table is ready. This is pretty standard across Walt Disney World property. So that's what I did today, but I did notice that unlike some other dining reservations that I've had recently here at Walt Disney World, the app did not say that they would text me and let me know when my table was ready initially. It said to make my way over to the location. I didn't do that initially because I hadn't actually read through the text initially. I know that's bad on me, but you know what? I'm only human. So when I did take a look at the text again, I did get a little bit worried. I'm like, oh, I hope they didn't call my name because I'm nearby, but not in earshot of the location. Not too long after that, I got a second text message that said that I needed to go over to the location and see the host because they needed more information about my party before they could seat us. So that's what I did. I made my way over, talked to the host, and he said, hey, just go ahead and wait here in this area for your name to be called. Now, there are two really important things that I think need to be made note of when it comes to this part of the process. So we haven't even gone in yet, and we're already talking about stuff. First, if someone you're traveling with has some sort of disability that makes it difficult for them to stand, I highly recommend talking to the host and making sure that it's clear that you need a seat. You need a place to sit when they decide where they're going to place you in the Beak and Barrel. This is important because not all of the seating at Beak and Barrel is seating. A lot of it is standing room only, whether it's around a table, whether it's around the bar. This is something that I saw play out in real time today. There was someone who was traveling with a family member who used an ACV as well as a cane to get around, and they could walk short distances, but they definitely couldn't stand for the entirety of their 45-minute reservation. But initially, they were seated at a standing table. I would imagine that when they checked in, they didn't hit that someone in their party needed accommodations for a wheelchair because they didn't. They're an ECV user, and there's a little bit of gray area there there. So there was some frustration. They had to wait longer for a different table to open up. So I just want to make sure that those of you who might be in a similar circumstance know that that's something that can happen here, and just plan accordingly. Make sure you let the host know ahead of time. Double check, triple check, just so that you don't end up in a similar position and then frustrated like this family was. The second thing that's really important to note when it comes to this part of the process is that this area has basically no seating, and you could be waiting here for a while. I was waiting around 10 minutes. Now there is a little ledge that you can sit on, but it's kind of low to the ground. Again, not ideal for those who might have some trouble with mobility, and it certainly isn't a sufficient bench, and there's plenty of space for that. So I really do think that Disney kind of dropped the ball here, and I would like to see actual seating if this is going to be a place where you're expected to wait for any period of time, especially if we're talking about an establishment that has standing room only. Another thing that you definitely want to be aware of if you are thinking about the Beak and Barrel is the seating situation in general. Now, I know I've mentioned a few times already that you might be standing during your time here at the Beak and Barrel, but that's not the only thing that you want to make note of. You also might be sharing a table with another family. Now, I didn't walk around the entire place today, so I can't speak to every single table in every single corner of the Beak and Barrel, but a lot of the tables are just like long, almost cafeteria style. So you're pulling up a chair right next to whoever it is that happens to be sitting next to you, whether they are a part of your family and or want to be sitting next to you or not. It's very similar to what you get over at Oga's Cantina, which can be great if you happen to be sat next to someone who is like into that vibe, but it also can be a nightmare if you were looking for an experience just for you and your family. Now today I was placed at the bar, but it's important to note that you don't have to be solo to be placed at the bar. There was a couple to my right, and then a group of 3 came in on my left eventually. So again, just be aware of that before booking the Beak and Barrel, and understand that this isn't a you and your family type experience. It's everyone in there all enjoying this together. So if that's not what you're looking for, this place is definitely not for you. Another thing that definitely needs to be added to the nuts and bolts portion of today's discussion is that there are some rules if you want to visit the Beak and Barrel. You can only be in there for 45 minutes. You can't order more than 2 libations per person, and you have to finish those drinks while you're in the Beak and Barrel. They won't let you leave with them. So again, really important to be aware of that before you book a table here. Now, as far as environment is concerned, Beak and Barrel is really cool. The second you step in there, it is so well themed, and honestly, it looks very much like the concept art, which I was delighted to see, because for a while there I had some concerns. There are so many details. You could be in there all day just trying to pick out all the Easter eggs and see absolutely everything. Honestly, from where I was standing, I probably saw a 10th of it. There were also a few show-like elements in the experience as well, with the cast members doing things like holding on because we were hitting rough seas. Pretty cool too. It did make it feel kind of interactive, though I did find it was a little bit difficult sometimes to hear the cast members and get a good sense of what was going on. For me personally, I feel like there was so much that I missed because it was just so loud that I couldn't really hear much outside of the Barker Bird, or Peg Leg Pete, whatever they're calling him nowadays.
Come on, everybody! Poblano and corn, chicken.
But unfortunately, this is where our review takes a turn, and it's rocky seas ahead, so batten down the hatches. So let me start off by talking about what we ordered today. So I went ahead and got the treasure trove, but I also went and got, it's like arepas with vegetable. I'm gonna put the name of it here because the official name has escaped me. I didn't order any alcohol today, just wasn't feeling it. Of course, it was 10:45 in the morning. Not that it's something I haven't done before, not that it's something I'll judge you for, but you know, you gotta be in the mood for that, and I was not. So I opted for this non-alcoholic drink and treat option as well as the arepas. And honestly, both options left quite a bit to be desired. So first and foremost, with the treasure trove, you got the drink as well as a cake pop, a little, let's call it a truffle, and some caramel popcorn, which honestly isn't even worth noting. It was such a small amount, just one little bite, and it was caramel popcorn. You know, nothing really special. The truffle was fudgy and good, but nothing to write home about. The cake pop was terrible. It was really dry and didn't really have any flavor. I mean, presumably it was vanilla, but it didn't even taste like vanilla. It just was like cake and sweet. Now the drink wasn't bad. It is ube flavored, and it has a number of other flavors that were hard to pin down. I still didn't end up finishing it. I'm not sure your kids would like it. It's a little bit too unique, a little bit weird, if you will, which was fun to try, but isn't going to be right for everybody. Now for my dish, the arepas, which had cheese and vegetables, you could get it with chicken. I opted not to. That also qualified as good. I didn't not like it. It kind of missed the mark though. The problem was everything kind of fell short. The flavor was there, but not really enough to carry, especially when you ate the whole thing as a whole. Like, yeah, it tasted of corn. It ought to have, but there wasn't enough cheese, and the lime crema just, it wasn't enough, you know? There were also some hot peppers on there, which were great, but they overtook the rest of the dish. So it didn't really feel all that balanced to me. The arepas were also kind of tough. Yeah, I don't think it was the best. So that's why I consider it good, but nothing I would even consider getting again. All right, so I've talked about the nuts and bolts. I've talked about what I ordered. Now we need to talk about the experience, both in the environment itself, but also the service. You know, I would love to sit here and tell you that it was just the best experience ever, and that all of the issues that I've encountered at Oga's Cantina, which is a very similar experience, have been resolved with this newly opened space. But I just can't. While there's no getting around that there's great theming and that it's a lot of fun to have such interactive cast members, the truth still remains that this is a very uncomfortable dining experience. Now I have to be honest, I lucked out because I was squeezed between two really fantastic parties. One who also was there by themselves like I was, but also a couple. They were both very pleasant. They both were doing like me and trying to keep our elbows in so that we didn't encroach on each other's space. But there's still no way around the fact that this wasn't really an adequate amount of space to have an enjoyable experience. It was just so tight and just not really very comfortable, especially if you were ordering food. Now, I had 2 plates. I couldn't even set those 2 plates side by side. One needed to be behind the other, and that actually resulted in kind of a weird encounter with the cast member who was serving me, because they kept asking if I was finished with the plate that was in the back, but I wasn't yet, and I had to tell them, like, no, I'm good. I can't fit both plates side by side, and I have to rotate them out. It's uncomfortable, and I don't think that it needs to be that uncomfortable. If they took a few people off the bar and gave people a little bit more wiggle room, this wouldn't be as much of a problem. I also was situated in an area that was near where the servers were picking up drinks and taking dishes from the kitchen to guests elsewhere in the Beak and Barrel, and because of that, I couldn't even step backwards. Like, I had to be right up against the bar. At least that's how it felt, especially with my backpack on, which I couldn't take off because there was no place to put it. So I really just felt like I was in everyone's way for the entirety of my visit, which doesn't really make for a stress-free experience. You know, it's not really fun to me, but I don't know, to each their own, I guess. Now, as far as service was concerned, this is another one of those areas where it was like great when it was great, right? The server that I had was so friendly and wonderful, but also, the service wasn't really that great in that he wasn't very attentive, which is probably because he's a bartender. He's doing a lot, and he wasn't the only bartender, but I mention this because since we're on a time limit, it's really important to make sure that you're being attentive to the customers that you're serving, at least in my opinion. Make it possible for them to order that second drink if they want it so that they have enough time to finish it. I didn't feel like that was the case with my server today, and that's pretty disappointing. But look, at the end of the day, there are going to be hits and there are going to be misses, and I feel like Beak and Barrel does a bit of both. There are some ways in which it knocks it out of the park. I love the theming. There are others in which it just falls short, mainly the menu. But I'd love to know what you guys have to say. Of course, I only tried 2 things off of their menu. Unfortunately, they don't really make me want to go back and try anything else. But let me know, what did I miss? What should I have done? What have you done that you think stood out? Don't hold back. Tell me in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.